We've got an old video for you this week, and this one is one of my favorites from PLANifax. It's about this building behind me, formerly known as the Halifax Memorial Library. Now, when we originally made this video, it was just a few days before this building was about to close down. But I've got a bit of an update for you this time. Before I get into any of that though, I'd also like to tell you about an event that we're having this week called Inspire Halifax. It's this Wednesday, November 15th from 6 to 8 p.m. happening across the street in that building over there, plus a trash can, I guess. Now, Inspire Halifax is an event where we've invited individuals, organizations, and groups that we think are changing the city for the better. And they'd like to tell you all about it, so I hope you come by and say hi. Now, here's the video. This is the Spring Garden Road Memorial Public Library. What a mouthful. It was built in 1951. Here's what it looks like from the inside. This is the children's section. This is a pencil that I stole off the front desk. Please don't tell anyone though. Here's where you turn your books. And speaking of books, they've got quite a few. It's a pretty neat place. But that's all about to change. These are the reports and documents recommending a new library. It was in 1987, after a building feasibility study, that we first found the library to have some issues. It was basically at capacity, and it couldn't support any further growth without significant changes, which included a recommendation to double the floor space. In 1996, Halifax was amalgamated. Basically, the city boundaries went from this to this, and that put a whole different spin on the role of the Spring Garden Library, from one that serviced its local community to one that would be the centralized library for what was now the Halifax Regional Municipality. By this time, the library was in pretty rough shape and needed the renovations pretty badly. Well, there were several solutions proposed for the issue of the increasingly outdated library, but we finally decided that the library needed a new building entirely. The plan? Get public funding by 1997 and have the new building constructed by 2000 for Halifax's 250th birthday. Now, I imagine you're probably wondering why we haven't built this thing already. Well, in the following year, the library didn't exactly get the funding that they were hoping for. In fact, they got the opposite. Budgets were cut, jobs were lost, tears were shed, and when the year 2000 rolled around, the new library was more or less off the table. Oh well, it was a pretty shitty birthday anyways. The funding problems continued for the new library long after that, and it actually wasn't until 2009 that the library project was revisited. But there was one thing that was different this time. So there's the story of how we've gotten to this point. A library that's been long overdue for an overhaul. But of course, this does come with some controversy. We are in Halifax after all, and Halifax and controversial developments. The construction of a new library brings with it the issue that the original building is essentially a memorial to those that served in the First and Second World War. And while steps are being taken to have the new library commemorate some of that history, the actual fate of the building is up in the air at this point, with few groups interested in maintaining it once it's closed. However, the general notion is that a new library has been a long time coming. And in comparison to other developments, it's actually been run fairly smoothly, with an extensive public consultation process. In case you missed it, it's this building right here. And I'm gonna go check it out right now. I'll let you know how it goes. We're PLANifax. Stay tuned. Well, today you can check out the Central Library for yourself, and by several measures, it has been a resounding success, drawing twice as many people as originally planned. The Memorial Library, however, hasn't been as popular. Well, of course it's closed, but I also mean that nobody really seems to want it. The building was first offered as a space for the Assembly of Mi'kmaq Chiefs, who turned it down, then offered to Volta Labs, who instead decided to move into the Maritime Center. But there's a reason behind this. Whoever ends up with the old library site has a very complex problem on their hands. The building currently costs the city between $90,000 to $113,000 every year just to maintain it without visitors, and the renovation costs alone were expected to be $7.3 million in 1997, which today would be, well, a lot. But more problematic is that the building was designed to be a library and nothing else, so it's really tricky to figure out a new use for the space that isn't another library. There's always the option to demolish and build something else altogether, but the old library is also a memorial for those who served in the First and Second World War, so any attempt to tear it down could be really controversial. There is some good news though. This past September, Halifax Council voted to have a formal report prepared exploring other possible uses for the old library building, including demolition if no appropriate uses can be found. It's all very uncertain. But what is certain is that a site like this has potential. Potential beyond just being a shortcut to Pizza Corner and a hangout for pigeons. The Memorial Library is very much worth remembering.